Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are a couple of the amazing authors that we have in a new book coming out. This one is called Dreaming with Bees, Sacred Medicine from Beyond the Veil of Grief. I'm going to introduce these two ladies to you in just a moment, but first, huge thank you to Dasha Bond. Dasha is the lead author of this gorgeous project. Dasha, I'm so grateful to you and so honored to be here doing this beautiful collaboration with you. You had a very big, amazing vision for the book, the community, and even dreaming beyond what this is going to be after the book. And again, super grateful. I'm sure I speak for all of our authors with that huge thank you. So Leslie Garbis is with us here today, and she's the creator of Singing is Healing, where she guides people to open and more deeply connect to their voices. Sonia Fernandez LeBlanc is a medicinal storyteller, interfaith scholar, and magical realist through her imaginal space, Revolutions Imaginarium, where she writes, facilitates, and leads communities in discovery of their embodied divinity using inter-sovereign practices and contemplative study to reclaim the sacred in the secular. All right. Oh my goodness, Sonia, you need to give me a trophy for reading that bio. That is amazing. I do need like bio reading trophies, I think. All right. Welcome, ladies. Leslie, I'm going to start the party off with you today. Tell us about the amazing chapter that you wrote.
Okay, so I'm chapter 11, and the title of my chapter is What's Your Voice Story? A Path to Loving and Freeing Your True Voice. So I've been working with people's voices for many years. A lot of those years have been in academia, in different colleges and universities and conservatories. And what I've seen with singers and non-singers is that most people do have a voice story. In fact, I've never met someone who does not. And that voice story could be as simple as, unfortunately, it's usually fairly negative. And it can be as simple as, oh, I don't like the sound of my voice. It's so squeaky. Or it could be, I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I hear that one a lot. And the thing is that it's not true. Most of those things are just not true. They are possibly from someone else, someone who told them something along the way where they've kind of shut down, or their limiting beliefs are sort of skewing how they feel about their voices. And so that is my work in the world, is to help buoy people up, help them learn to love their voices and to free and discover what their true voice is. And in my chapter, I talk about my voice story. So what's hilarious and seems sort of ironic is that someone with such a strong throat chakra presence in the world, and I've been singing, my whole life, professionally for many of those years and teaching professionally. I lost my power. I lost my voice. I lost my being able to hear my inner voice, and I lost the ability to really sing for many years. And so I talk about that. I talk about the power of my voice, and then I talk about how I lost it in motherhood, for instance, and in people pleasing, for instance, and in overgiving to others and lifting them up while forgetting to take care of myself and sing my own joy and sing my own song for some of those years, particularly my early motherhood years. And so that is basically what my chapter is about. And there's some really fun juxtaposition where I start out with, the power of my voice in my birth, for instance. I did a home birth and I really used my voice to bring my child into the world. But then I go into talking about some serious contrast and how I then sort of fairly quickly lost my voice. So I think that's the nutshell, Laura.
Such a great, great healing topic. And it's been weaved through all of the things we do around here at Brave Healer Productions in terms of voice, both written and spoken voice. I love this topic so much. What do you think is the most important thing you want people to know about that voice story?
I want them to maybe see themselves in it, so then they can start to ask questions, because there's a really great unraveling and unfolding that can start to happen fairly quickly that leads to so much healing, that people, once they understand, oh wow, my relationship with my voice is really sort of off. I either completely ignore my voice, or I completely neglect it, or I abuse it, or I hate it, or, and then they start to ask questions around it. Some really interesting stuff comes up, and they're able to start to let go. And the letting go, of course, a lot of times is, letting go of mental chatter, emotional things, but then it happens in the body too. And then suddenly the voice starts to become, I don't know, just more free and more true.
Yes, with an exclamation point.
Mhm.
I love it, Leslie. Thank you. Thanks for being
Thank you.
here today. Thanks for saying yes to this project. Really happy to have you.
Thank you.
Sonia, tell us about your amazing chapter. Let's make sure we unmute you.
Hi. So, hi, everybody. My chapter is chapter 21, and it is called Folding Time, Our Stories That Heal Lineage Forward and Backward. And I, as my tongue twister of a bio tells, I am a medicinal storyteller. And what that means, because people are like, what does that mean? And what that means is that I believe that we all have stories that need to be told. And when we speak them, when we share them, they create bonds and they create these medicinal lines between us. And you can't hear a story and then without connecting it to your own story. And my goal is to support people as they are able to share their stories. And oftentimes I do that as a writer through the way that I tell my stories. And so when Dasha invited me to do this, I was like, oh my God, this is what I do. I'm so excited. And so the story that came through was one that I have been telling for many, many years. As a comedy, when I was, through trauma, as a comedy, as like, ooh, let me tell this story because it's super dramatic. And every time I tell my childhood life story, people are like, you should write a book about that. And I've always told it from the lens of my father as the villain. And in this story, I had some understandings over the past couple of years where I was trying to remember things about my childhood that were really beautiful with my father before this deep trauma happened in our family. And I realized that me as a 40-something-year-old woman thinking back upon my childhood and how beautiful it was, I realized that me walking as myself remembering was actually what supported my younger self and my father, who had serious mental health issues. It allowed him to be the father that he needed to be, almost as if my memory of him now folded back onto my childhood. And that just was so expansive for me and so healing. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not by myself. These energies that exist in the way that we fold time, in the way that we can be in our bodies, but then in memory of lineage, we actually have the capacity to heal our lineage through the way that we interpret. And so the story came out as a practice where I shared my practice, but that you can take your story and insert it, and it has all different nuances, right? We all have different stories, but that idea of our past, our future, our present selves supporting our past, present, and future selves in different elements or different times in our lives. And if we just, it's just simply shifting our mindset, shifting our energy, our soul knowing, just a tinge into this like alternate space, that then we can actually do that work and take care of each other and take care of ourselves forward and backward. And so that's kind of in a nutshell what the story shares in this medicinal book that we've written together.
Yeah, powerful, powerful story medicine. My version is brave story medicine. And okay, so if somebody's listening and they're just going to dip their toe into this idea, maybe they haven't used this kind of practice before, what's the most important thing you want them to know about this process? How are you going to get them going?
Okay, so somatics, you need to be in your body, you need to be grounded in your present, and you need to have this understanding that your brain, that we have evolved as human beings for our brains to want to make all the decisions in our lives and to want to tell stories about all kinds of stuff forward and backward. And we have to like tell our brains, thank you so much. You have evolved us for thousands and thousands of years, but we are a different evolutionary being now in 2024 than we were even 2000 years ago. And we no longer can make decisions inside of our brains. We can no longer contemplate these things inside of our brains. We need to come into the body. We need to come into our solar plexus. We need to breathe and find a neutral place and understand that our emotions are waves. And we may be in the height of an emotional wave, remembering something back then. And that's going to make it really hard to be present and actually drop into our past selves to support ourselves. But if we can turn our brain off and tell it thank you and turn down the noise and just be inside of our bodies and ground wherever you are into the land and honor that, it allows this opening, I think, this portal to open up where our future, past, and present selves can move more freely and connect with our stories, and we can do this ancient. We can go all the way back to like our ancient ancestors as well, but we have to know where we are right now. We have to stay grounded here right now in this time and place. And so that has to happen inside the body.
There's this quote, with awareness, we get the choice. And my version of that is with body awareness. So like, and I would imagine Leslie would agree with like, it's the foundation for voice too, because if you're not in
Yes.
there, right? Leslie, what do you want? Do you want to add?
Oh my gosh, this is just wonderful. Sonia, I loved that so much. It's the number one place I start with my clients or with my groups who I work with is grounding. And, it's so funny. I pulled a card this morning from my own Oracle deck. I'm like, okay, I'm a little nervous about this interview. I definitely just need to take a breath and I'm going to listen to my own wisdom. And so I pulled a card and it's grounding. And I was like, well, isn't this
Of course
perfect?
it is.
It says, imagine growing roots out of your feet like a tree to help you ground. Grounding is dropping into the body, into the breath, and into presence. There is a more grounded feeling and a connection to your breath when your center of energy is lower in the body and in the lower chakras. There is a feeling of being supported. And I just can't believe how cool that is because it weaves into Sonia, how it's talked about too.
Nice.
Synchronicities. I mean, but that's been true through this whole process
Yes.
with writing the book and the community that came around it. I mean, just the weaving, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I want to pull from what we were just talking about and take it just into like, I get to be a fly on the wall in your practices and rooms. Sonia, so, we're already talking about it. Feeling is healing and feeling is an awareness practice. You did such a beautiful job of talking about getting into this place where we do that. Helping people feel is part of this for me. It's why I'm sharing you all with the world and helping people to feel. We're taught not to feel a lot of the time. So if I was going to look in your window, what would your practice look like in your day to day? Give me an idea of one of the things you do as an awareness practice.
Okay. It's my favorite thing. And I actually just I'm teaching it now and leading circles in it, but it's called sounding, but it's not sound bath. Like that's beautiful practice. But this is, I realized a while ago when I first started this practice that I needed to get energy out of my body through my voice, and not in a singing, like in a like guttural, like, oh, get it out. And so I am a member of a community here in Nashville, and they have these sounding practices. And I was like, we should be having this more often. So I got certified to do this, and now I lead them. But every day I call it gratitude and grief, and I release as much as I possibly can from my body through this practice of sounding, where I just get in the space and I come in and I pull from my diaphragm and I just use my voice. And for so many people, that can be really hard because we're so trapped, and so many of us, especially women, are told, close it up. You don't need to be loud. And like oftentimes this practice is big, right? And it's scary because there's not a lot of safe places to do it. And honestly, I do it in my car because you can close your doors and it's safe. And every day, for at least 4 to 5 minutes, I get in somewhere that's a safe, enclosed place, and I sound. I get it out of my body. And it makes room, because when we release it, that energy transmutes and it goes back into the ground, right? And then once it's there, energy is energy, right? It can grow the plants, like it can support the mycelial network. But when it's in our body, especially if it's grief or negative energy, with all the things that we see every day that exhaust us, if we can actually take that into sound and release it, it then makes room inside of us. But the thing that like has saved me is that when I'm receiving other people's nut jobbery, oftentimes their energy, their release, sometimes it gets trapped inside of me. And this sounding practice not only allows me to release, but it also allows me to become like a sieve. And so their energy that doesn't belong to me, I can imagine it just transmuting through me and back into that ground. This is why you have to be grounded. And then it goes into the roots. And then once it's out of you, whether it's yours or someone else's that doesn't belong to you, then it makes this new energy that can support our planet and support our humanity. So I do it every day. It has been the greatest shift for me, and it has allowed me to be more creative, be more present, be more centered. And I get to practice using my voice, which is my personal favorite thing to do. So now I'm going to stop using my voice. And
Well, you two were a divine match today for this interview, for
goodness.
sure. Sonia, thank you for being here, and again for saying yes, and just for everything you're bringing to this. These are not small potatoes ideas we're talking about today, you guys, talking to our listeners right now. So maybe you're getting the goosebumps, right? All right, Leslie, you're gonna close us with the answer to this one. If I was going to be that fly on the wall of your practice, what's it look like? What's one of the things that you do?
I'm so happy about the magical overlapping here. I just can't even believe it, actually. Sonia, we need to talk, girl. So I put my feet on the ground and I move sound as well. And with my clients, I do this sort of thing as well, moving from those lower chakras. And with women, I believe there's a very definitive and magical womb to voice connection. And so a lot of the work I do is freeing in myself and others what I call the tube, where I imagine the tube to be in the ground and the tube to come all the way up. And then along that tube, we're sending energy and we're inviting constrictions to move. And we can do that with the power of our voice, grounding first. So my feet are on the ground and I'm doing mantra and I'm doing guttural womb-like, birthing. I call it sounding too, or I call it birthing, birthing sounds. And so I do that as well. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I love some grounding practices where I'm like syncing the chi, doing some like simple qigong and tai chi things. That really helps me get grounded first thing in the morning too. And then I always burn. I always burn herbs or Palo Santo or something to just kind of clear the energy. And I invite first thing in the morning anything to release that does not belong to me and my highest good, belonging to me, past, present, or future, or any other energy or entity. And I just let it go. And then I move it usually to breath and sound from there.
Mm. My mind is going in about a million directions with both of you and where we could take this. Of course, this could be like a 3-hour conversation about sounding alone, right? You guys, our authors stepped up with their vulnerable stories, which are healing in and of themselves. And then they're stepping up as the master teachers they are, and they are going to help you with a practice from the book. I'm so honored and proud of you both and the entire author cast for taking that challenge and doing a brilliant job with it. Because it's one thing to teach a client, but it's quite another to get it in black and white on those pages in a way that people can have an experience. And y'all did an amazing job. Oh my goodness. Leslie, Sonia, thank you so much for what you do in the world. And thank you for being here today to share with everyone.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Laura. And
So
back
an
out
honor.
is your stuff. I mean, gosh, it's so prolific. So thanks.
Thank you. So I hope you all feel what I know. This is way more than a book, you guys. Scroll down into the show notes. If you heard something today that gave you those goosebumps or you have a question about, this is a very generous community. And I have both Sonia and Leslie hooked up with their links and their sites. Go explore, check out the amazing stuff that they are up to. And of course, you're also invited to our book launch party. I've got information down below about that. It's going to be on May 23rd on Zoom. We'll have a party with the Dreaming with Bees authors. We're going to do some fun giveaways that day. So we hope that you'll join us for that. And if you happen to be listening to this interview anytime after that May 23rd date, well, then get over to Amazon and grab your copy of Dreaming with Bees. Lastly, today, everyone remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.